11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
This was a tough choice, honestly, to choose which song to go to. It is. It slowly bleeds in. I was just wondering which one to go. Yeah. So, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Granny's Peach Tea, episode 146, for those who are counting. And yep, we are going back, once again, to the early 2000s for our movies of the week to discuss. Because we are talking about Ben Affleck, Jennifer Gardner, and Daredevil. And we're going to be doing a comparison of the director's cut, which seems to have taken on its own life over the years. But thanks for joining us as always. If you're joining us on the Facebook live stream, if you're joining us on YouTube, or if you're joining us on X, or wherever you found your audio-only podcast, we always appreciate the support. Of course, Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. It was the big song that dropped with this movie back when it came out. And that's what we're kicking off with. So back at home on a Wednesday evening. And with me as always is Jason. Jason, what's up, dude?
Ed, good to see you. Good to be here tonight talking Daredevil. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. It was nice to revisit it. But before we get into it, I just want to say, during this broadcast, you can support our page by sending stars, which is a digital gift that helps us earn money. Now, Mr. Lee and Ms. Kwong and you other Asian people out there don't pay with fish, huh? I'm not being racist. That's a reference to the movie we're about to cover.
Oh boy, that was a fun one this morning, definitely. Get back there in a second. And also with us now, Rick, what's up, dude? What's going on?
What's up, everybody? Glad to be here talking about the greatest Marvel character ever created and put to film. And for the special occasion, I thought I'd broadcast from 2003 itself. That's I'm in the Matrix tonight. We're going.
So for those who are listening, so Rick is definitely gone full early 2000s emo, straight out of Hot Topic over here for this one. Excited to talk about this one. Pop is over here making his nestling his way on my feet so he can go take a nap while I'm doing this thing. But let's just jump right into it, man, because we don't really have too many stories to jump into this week. So as we have been jumping, if you've been following us lately, we've been talking about, 2005 is The Punisher with Thomas Jane and John Travolta. We even did Punisher Warzone with the late Ray Stevenson. And that was a lot of fun. Took a quick break for Masters of the Universe Revolution. And now we're back covering the rest of the other movies, because there are some movies that have escaped us. And this one here, back in 2003, was Daredevil. Now, it's what has happened with this movie over time has been kind of fascinating, if I'm going to be honest. Like, this movie was initially met with a lot of hatred. Like, people were pissed. And yeah, it had a lot to follow up. Like, it came off the heels of Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's original film. It also followed up X-Men and Blade. And Blade was a couple of movies in at this point. So it was an interesting time. Now, Marvel Studios didn't exist yet, but there was some planning for it because Marvel had to sell off all their film rights to various studios, and Fox, amongst the X-Men and Fantastic Four, grabbed Daredevil. So I thought that was an interesting choice and went with it. So yeah, there was a lot to live up to. The movie financially Didn't do great. You know, its box office was interesting, right? Like it came out.
It made $100 million over its budget.
Well, it made 179.2 million. Now, for again, the expectations I'm sure were much higher. The budget was $78 million. So you got to figure in marketing and yada yada and this and that. I'm pretty sure Fox felt like they were going to have their next Spider-Man on their hands, and that did not quite happen. So,
and I think why people were so frustrated, because I think you put that perfectly, was Daredevil is a character as beloved, I think, as X-Men and Spider-Man, and this very well could have been the next Spider-Man if it was handled with the attention Spider-Man was, you know. So I think like that's why I think people have softened about it, and that's why people hated it so much when it first came out, because it was like, God damn, what'd you do to Daredevil? This is my only Daredevil. Now we got Charlie Cox. We could look back on this and go, oh, this is kitschy.
Well, one of those people being Rick, because Rick, I mean, I'm not misspeaking. Your favorite comic book character is Daredevil, right? Like that's a safe assumption. I know we joke about Hawkeye.
Hawkeye right behind him, but it's
yeah. So, and I know you have love for the X-Men.
And I got to agree with you. A lot of my initial hate of this film, and man, I feel really bad 21 years later for having been so negative about this film. I was comparing it to Tobey Maguire. I was like comparing it to Spider-Man, and it's not Spider-Man. And at that point in time, remember, we didn't have 30 MCU movies to be like, oh, well, I guess this lands in like the third category of pretty good, but not all the way there. At the time, it was all or nothing, you know? So I think that was a lot of my resentment, man. On this rewatch, I softened on a lot of this film. A lot of it. A big part of it being it was a victim of its time. And I know we'll discuss it while we're discussing the film, but there's so much borrowed during the making of this film from other, you know, franchises that were doing well at the time, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we'll get into it more. I don't want to blast off for like a 20-minute diatribe about it, but
no,
I think it's a victim of its time.
Well, I do think that the movie is. I mean, I'll just start with my initial reaction to it. When I first saw this movie in the theater, I wanted to love this movie. I was very excited we were getting a Daredevil movie. You know, growing up, I was familiar with Daredevil, read some Daredevil. I'm not going to act like he was like Spider-Man. We've been over this 1,000 times. Spider-Man's my guy. Love the X-Men. You know, Batman is my number 2 guy too, Spider-Man, but again, keep it within Marvel. So I was very excited about this. Ben Affleck, you know, was a big name at the time, or, you know, he was kind of like really coming into like his own there. So I was excited for it, and I wanted to love it. And I saw it multiple times in the theater and kept fighting hard to justify like liking this movie, because I didn't hate it originally. Like I really didn't. It's my dislike for this movie started, I think, when I bought it on like DVD upon rewatches, and then like really, really sinking my teeth into it, and then I started getting upset. There's a couple of things that stood off right off the bat for me that pissed me off in the theater. So I never thought it was a perfect movie, but I didn't despise it. And interestingly enough, this came out the same year. This came out on February 14th, so almost like to the date that this movie came out 21 years ago. Yeah, it was kind of. I remember
this was a Valentine's Day movie.
Yes, this movie dropped on Valentine's Day.
Daredevil and Elektra. That makes sense. It'd be a Valentine's movie.
I guess. I mean, if any of these movies is going to be, it'll be this. But I don't know. It's just like it's an odd choice, right?
I don't disagree with you. No, I don't disagree with you. But I kind of see Rick's point too.
Instead of summer blockbuster.
Well, the summer blockbuster was Eric Bana Hulk. There was 2 Marvel movies that dropped that year, and that was what they were banking it on. But I kind of understand the strategy, because no, we've been over that. We discussed the Hulk.
Yeah.
Feelings. But in the pantheon of Marvel characters, and though who's more familiar with the mainstream, the Hulk is the one over Daredevil. I mean, honestly,
that's for
comic
sure.
book readers were familiar with Daredevil. The mainstream public had no fucking clue who this guy is. They're like, oh, Ben Affleck's in a movie with Jennifer Gardner. Let me go see what this is about. And that was that. And I think but it's true. I think it's important to really paint the picture, because again, this is pre-MCU, so we didn't get all the B and C level and D level characters. Daredevil was an interesting choice. I felt like it was a huge reach by Fox to try to go with this, and that's why they have the star power in this movie, headlining it on the posters and all of that, to try to sell this movie. But Daredevil is such a rich character that I also understand the choice. So that's where that was at that time. So upon a rewatch, though, I feel like I'm still sort of in the same place with this movie, but I feel like I can a little bit better articulate what my issues are with this film. I still don't love this movie. I don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen. I feel like that got crazy for a while. This movie got a lot of hate for a while. And I don't think it's at that level, but I still can't say I liked it. There's a lot of nostalgia behind it, and that I felt for it, but it didn't turn me over to loving it. Jason, where were you at? I guess initial reaction and now.
So my initial reaction, I saw this in the theater and I hated it. I hated Ben Affleck as Daredevil. I hated the plot. There was just I hated the writing. And I am a Daredevil guy. I mean, I'm not a huge Daredevil guy, right? I'm not saying he's like Spider-Man, but I like him. He's a very interesting character, and I actually love Bullseye as a villain. I think the fact that Bullseye has no superpowers, but can murder you with which he does in this movie. Actually, It's a cool scene where he murders someone with a bunch of paper clips. I've always loved that idea. So I came in wanting something that I just wasn't going to get in this, and I didn't get. Then I didn't see it. I haven't seen it since the theater. It's one of the ones that I bought it on physical media and then never opened it, and it sat there, and I determined I'm never going to watch this, and I sold it without ever watching it.
Interesting.
So watching it over the last 2 nights, because I watched the director's cut last night and the theatrical cut the night before, because I wanted them to be fresh in my mind. Again, I'm looking back. This isn't the only Daredevil I'm ever going to get. I have a Daredevil I really like. So I've softened on this movie a lot. My problems are still the same with it. But I got more enjoyment out of it. I just think there's a lot of fun stuff you can focus on. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. There's a lot of stupid stuff. And a lot of stuff I don't love, and we'll get into it. But I think there's enough here where if you focus on that, it can be a lot of fun. And I did have fun with it. Again, I'm rolling my eyes at some point, and we'll get there. I think we all know the points that we're going to hit. But, ultimately, and then I'm glad I got to look back on Ben Affleck, because I have a different view of him as an actor than I did when this came out. And though I still don't think he's a perfect Daredevil, only because it's not his fault. I think he just needed a bit. I think if he aged a bit, if he did this a couple of years later, because watching him as old Batman, he sells that. He kind of can get that hardness when he needs to. And I don't think he can do that in this movie. He's always hey, I'm Matt Murdock. He doesn't really get that edge, which he can, but for whatever reason he wasn't. And so, but having said that, I enjoyed the shit out of his performance when I watched it last night. So I'm one of those people that hated it, and have now I'm kind of like a defender, not a defender, but I've softened on it a lot, to the point where I was giving this movie shit. I think it's better than the Ghost Rider movies. I think it's better than the Punisher movies. I can't the Sony movies. I think the only Sony movies I would put ahead of it are the Spider-Man, and maybe not even Spider-Man 3, only because it's Spider-Man. And some of those X-Men movies, because I would damn sure watch this over some of those later X-Men movies, like X-Men 3. I'd watch this over, and the what's the one, the Dark Phoenix one, the one that I
Apocalypse
completely
was so
dodged.
pretty.
The
Apocalypse
last
was
one.
pretty, but it was
Yeah.
Yeah, the last one, because technically the
yeah.
Fox X-Men era ended with New Mutants, actually, which is weird, but that's actually the one that ended it. But Dark Phoenix was the last X-Men proper movie.
I kind of like the movie.
Okay. Yeah, I just couldn't.
Are you guys
But-
really not going to cover Generation X?
I mean, maybe one day if we can find clean copies of it, sure.
Is
It's
that a
been
movie?
tough.
Fine.
It was like
I
this.
will source the copies.
It was like a Channel 11. Again, for those not in New York, WPIX, CW. Late 90s, early 2000s X-Men ripoff type thing that was going on. Yeah. I remember the idea of that, but I never actually sat down and watched it. But with Daredevil, Jason, though, yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I think it was interesting that Ben Affleck, who I guess we could start off with him in this, is caught a lot of shit when he was cast as Batman because of this movie.
Yes, and for me, he caught a lot of shit
from
me
you
because of
and
this movie. Yep.
from you, and it felt like 80 or 90% of the planet. People fucking were jumping off their houses when they heard Ben Affleck was cast as Batman in the DCU, and the reference was, "Oh, fucking Daredevil? That's who's Batman." Now, the interesting part though is that there are a couple of Marvel characters that are sort of called the poor man's Batman, and Daredevil's usually one who oddly gets this. So does Moon Knight.
Yeah, but that's unfair.
It's stupid, but it's like lazy comparisons. Like, it's not really diving into it. You know what? Daredevil and Batman are, we'll say Daredevil has no powers, but we know
he has
shot in an alley.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, he doesn't have super strength or some shit like that.
Yeah,
like that's where it begins and ends. And they're dark characters, I guess, like street level gritty characters. That's about as far as the comparison goes. I don't hate him in this movie. I don't. I don't hate Ben Affleck in this movie. I think he wasn't given a lot to work with, but wasn't. That's an interesting point you made, because I feel like he wasn't at the point in his career where he could have elevated shitty material.
Yep.
He kind of rocked with it and he worked with what he had, and that's what we get. So it's not really on. I don't put this on him whatsoever.
No, me neither.
To be honest with you, Rick, what are your thoughts on Ben Affleck as Daredevil, Matt Murdock?
I like the job that he did. My only knock on Ben Affleck in this movie is his blind eyes. Whenever they knock the glasses off of him or take his mask off, and he's like, other than his blind eyes, I appreciate his character a lot. The fighting scenes were really interesting. It was very obvious when they were using computer graphics to animate his character. But outside of that, when it was actually him putting some work in, I was kind of impressed. I was happy with his performance overall. That's why I don't understand the comments that he made after the film, where he talked about wearing a costume was like a disrespect to him and how he'll never do it again. It was like, dude, you did a good job. Blame the fucking writer. You did your job today. You showed up to work and you did your job. It was a weird reaction. I think it was weird, his reaction after the film, as compared to the work product that he put out.
Well, I do think that a lot of actors, and it sounds to me like what he was doing here was, they're not going to throw the writers under the bus really and say, well, you know something, I had a shitty script, my director was trash. They'll take the heat on themselves and say, that was him. Yeah, he was embarrassed about. He's still to this day. That's why it's so interesting that if those rumors prove to be true, that he's going to return for the next Deadpool movie, which we actually might be finding out the official title for finally on Sunday, because the trailer drops during the Super Bowl, so we'll be talking about that next week. But I kind of feel like that's always been a thing. Like the actors will kind of pump up their chest and say, I'll take the shots for the writers and director and things of that nature for the most part. But I also do recall him putting work in to wanting to portray a blind man. Like the little details that were in this of the little braille things that were on the different suits, because obviously you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
The folding of the money scene where
The money.
yeah,
Yep.
I thought those were actually fascinating things to get behind. The blasting of the music before he was leaving the Daredevil cave, which is one thing that drives me fucking crazy in this movie. I didn't understand that part of it because of his sound overload of sound is too much for him, like with the train scene and things like that, and the banging of the organs in the largest church ever known to man at the end of the movie. Like, I just didn't understand the radio thing. Like, I don't know why. That like really sticks in my craw for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I know it could make sense because I think the thing with those with the sounds is they were surprises, and it's also just a cacophony of noise. Whereas this is him going, I like this music. I'm gonna blast this music. It's like, if I'll blast the Beatles or Wu-Tang or whatever, and I'll enjoy it. But if you start banging shit next to my head, it's gonna drive me nuts. So I think it's like that.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly how I took it. It was just white noise and him controlling what he's focusing on.
Okay, no, that's fair. I'm not saying it was just always something I found weird. And both times
no, that's fair.
I watched this, it kind of like bugged me a bit, Oh, I knew this was coming. And it's funny because I was literally considering going there. Jada, I know we're both there on this. We're going to save the soundtrack, though, for the end as its own character thing. But yes,
it really is.
I do love the soundtrack to this movie. One of my top 5 comic book movie soundtracks of all time.
Yeah, I could see that. It's a great soundtrack.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Before we move from it's a small thing I want to get to because I'll forget before we move from the Daredevil cave. It's stupid, but I kind of love how he gets in. How it's just these 3 huge combination padlocks that he just chucks and listens for one to stop them.
Yes.
And I think that's stupid as shit, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that part of it. Like that is kind of a cool thing. It was just like the thing in the Daredevil cave that pisses me off the most, besides the fact that a pro bono lawyer, don't know who built this for him.
Yeah, it makes no sense that he has it.
No, and in the show, there are explanations for these little details, which go a long way. Now you can make the defense in a TV series. You get more time to dive into these little nuances. But again, if you're going to do this, I feel like a quick line could have done this. Maybe one time they took a huge case and they got something. I don't know. Whatever. The sleeping in the water is crazy.
Oh god, that is insane.
I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
No, what did you say? I missed.
No, I said the sleeping in the water part is the thing that drives me fucking bonkers with the entire Daredevil fucking thing.
I still don't understand that. Was it just sensory deprivation for like 20 minutes or an hour? Or was he a vampire?
I don't know. I'm
kind of with you on that. Like, I get it if he was using it for like an hour of quiet. Yeah. You can't sleep in water for 8 hours.
No, you can't, because remember there was that thing that you would do as like a kid when a bunch of people were doing kind of like a sleepover, and Rick, you may have been a part of one of these things where you had someone's hand who fell asleep first and put it in the water, and they would supposedly piss themselves and shit like that. Yes, Jason, it's a fucked up thing that people would do, but that is...
No, I've heard of this.
Yeah, wouldn't Matt be pissing all over himself if that's the case?
But that's why he's in water. He doesn't care. It's just like it's circulated.
Don't even get me.
Maybe he's got a filtration system.
Don't even get me started with that shit, because when we go to the Poconos every year and there's this float trip, everyone else is pissing all over the place, and I'm like, fuck all you guys. I'm pulling off to the side, and I'm going to just at least go take a piss on a tree. Everyone else is pissing all over themselves.
Yes. Eddie has a problem with pissing himself. It doesn't matter if he's in the ocean, in a pool, in a river. raining,
like pissing
anything.
myself.
It's always the same rule.
See, I had that
Thank you.
rule too until I started wearing adult diapers. I'm pissing myself right now, guys.
Oh my god, I had a feeling that this is where this conversation was going to go at some point. Oh, Jada, I hope it's not the pissing yourself. I'm hoping it's putting one of your friend's hands in water while they're sleeping and then making them piss themselves.
Now, if you really want to be messed up, is you
That's
pee in a
messed
cup
up.
and then put their hand in. So you put their hand in your pee and then they pee themselves.
Now that's
Double
next
piss.
level. That is next level fucked up there. Another thing, a couple of things I wanted to touch on with Daredevil before we move on, is the fact that besides I'm doing it, the opening of this movie, the opening shot of this movie is fucking fantastic. It's Daredevil on the cross, famous
That's cool.
comic book cover that was there. I did adore that, and I'm glad that stayed intact in both versions of this. Just to briefly say, like, that wasn't a change thing. I just felt like that was a missed opportunity on the poster of this movie. Like, this in no background is there, but like that should have been the fucking Daredevil poster.
You know what though? It should have been a poster, but I'm going to say it shouldn't have been the poster because they needed to put Jennifer Garner on this thing as well.
Sure.
Because this is 2003. She's at peak power. This is Alias time. Which, by the way, I am in the middle of a rewatch. I'm in the middle of season 4.
Okay.
And I want to tell you something. I am so attracted to Jennifer Garner. I want to move to Hollywood and become her next co-star, because that's usually how you get to her. That's usually how you romance her. You become her co-star. You acting with her, Anyway, that was a backdoor way of making fun of her and Ben Affleck. But you have to have her on the poster though, because she's just as big a star as Ben Affleck, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I can see that. That's definitely like a thing, a selling point. But I figured I was referring to like the character posters. Oh
no, yeah, I think artistically, I think that would have been the poster.
Yeah,
like if it wasn't about selling it, that would have been it.
Yeah, we got some clarification from Jader, by the way. My friend Martin pissed himself, and he never slept over again. Well done, my friend. Well done. Sure, that's pretty good. I guess that takes us to Elektra in this movie, as you mentioned. Jennifer Garner playing Elektra in this. I got some problems with Elektra. Not really an assassin by any means whatsoever. I get she was training with a different sensei every year that her dad had her do to make sure she can defend herself.
Well, I mean, at least we got that. We don't even know how Daredevil learned to fight because hashtag spoilers, no stick.
Yes, I'm sorry. Let's rewind that for a second, Jason, because that is something that I was going to hit back for later on.
It's my biggest ding of the movie. It's what I hated about the movie then. It's what I disliked the most this time is no stick. And it's not that I'm a big stick stan. It just doesn't make sense. Like, there's the scene right after he gets, like, and here's the thing. I'm not pedantic, okay? Daredevil's origin is he gets shot in the eye with radioactive chemicals and it enhances his senses. That's stupid. That's not the movie's fault. That's the source material. You got to go with it, right? But then the source material is smart enough to go, how do we make it clear that he learned how to fight? This movie would have us believe that spray taught him how to fight like a ninja, because like as soon as he's recovered, he's fighting those bullies in the alley and he's doing like fucking flip kicks and it's like, wait, how does without stick none of this makes sense?
He does the Street Fighter 2 Guile blade kick to that kid in the fucking alley.
Yes, he does.
I know, right? Yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot about this part. Yeah, no stick is something that pissed me off to no end when I saw this every single time I've seen this movie. It's extremely frustrating. All we get for the explanation of his fighting is we get some bullshit about, oh yeah, my other 4 senses were heightened and I trained my body to contort itself and to be like balanced and all this other shit. No. And not even like his father was teaching him how to fight or something like that. Let's just say his fighting style in this movie was like a brawler.
Yeah.
No, that's my point. He even says it. His father goes out of the way to tell him, Maddie, I don't want you hitting anything but books. Which tells the audience that this kid, Matt Murdock, is a kid who, with sight, does not know how to fight. Like,
yeah,
that's it. He's getting picked on. We understand that. All you had to do, again, is just not gloss over that. You could have pulled the whole, hey, I trained with this blind sensei over years, had it in a montage. I'm not even asking. Yeah, I'm not asking for a deep dive in with Stick. I'm just saying it's like something. The fact that that happens is fucking awful.
And the way they could have done it, they had a moment when he sees his father, collecting for the mob, and he drops his thing, and he gets caught, and he goes and he gets the spray right after that. He could have been, okay, Dad doesn't want me to fight. Well, I'll show him. I don't want him to be a mob guy. Like a line of dialogue and a fucking not even a 30-second montage done.
Yeah, Rick, what are your thoughts on the omission of Stick in this film? Again, so it's coming from the comic book perspective of this as well.
I get where you guys are coming from on. He just got sprayed in the face and now he has no fear and he's an excellent stick fighter all of a sudden. Like, this doesn't make any sense. However, they chopped 40 minutes off of the director's cut for the theatrical cut. And we're talking about adding at least another 15 minutes back into the movie.
Yeah.
Like, if they were to add Stick in and make the story make more sense, then they would have to cut the fight with Wilson Fisk at the end off and just have Bullseye be the villain of the film.
Well, I do think that, well, Rick,
like they could do that.
Conversations about this over the years. Yeah.
It's oversight.
We felt that was a creative. We felt that was a creative. That's a pretty huge oversight, though. I got to be honest. Like that's not really a forgivable one. It's not added in the director's cut. It was never even a fucking thought. That's what kind of pisses me off. Right. Is that there was never a thought. Like when we watch the director's cut, if I saw a brief explanation of Stick, then I kind of am like, oh, all right, maybe I can be a little bit more forgiving on this part. But no, this thing stands right there. It just was like never crossed their fucking mind.
And I would say this, Rick, I think you could completely cut the park fight scene between Jennifer Gardner and Ben Affleck, which we're going to get to, which is the stupidest scene in the movie because it makes no sense. Cut that. Have their budding romance be not we fight and then fuck, but no, we're both warriors secretly. This isn't new. I'm not writing. This is a trope. We're warriors secretly, but we kind of like each other and we're hitting it off. There's a small conversation, and in that time we've saved, you give us the Stick montage. It's just a matter of prioritizing the characters you need and what you need about the characters. Because I get it. You need Ben Urich, you need Elektra, you need Kingpin, you need a lot of moving parts in this. But I think because of that, they really needed to be smart in picking and choosing their fight scenes. And the fact that I'm not saying that Elektra and Daredevil shouldn't have fought. I'm saying Elektra and Matt shouldn't have fought. That made no sense.
Yeah, especially in the way that they do. And I do think that that's also one of my knock against this movie has always been that I feel like it's overstuffed. It's overstuffed with too much. Now I'm talking about the theatrical cut. It's overstuffed with too much Daredevil mythology. They felt like they could not pick and choose correctly which ones they had to get to. They're like, all right, it's got to have Elektra. It's got to have Bullseye. It's got to have Kingpin. And we need Foggy. We need, we need Ben Urich. And then you still forget others as well. Karen Page, again.
Dude that made his costume.
Yeah.
Yes, also. And that's the thing. That's another explanation. There's just a lot of Daredevil mythology that you needed to get to. So you kind of had to just pick and choose. Now, Rick, me and you over the years have said that we felt that this movie, and I remember this was in 2003, we had this discussion where we both said what should have happened was there should have been a big fight with Bullseye and Kingpin. He never gets to him. And you fucking tease that for the sequel that whether you get it or don't, you don't overstuff your original because now you're definitely not getting a sequel. Just so be it.
Yeah.
Or
what are you going to do in the sequel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where was this going to go?
And then
exactly.
there you go. No, absolutely. And then if you do that, if you go with that, you can squeeze in. You don't have to make Stick a montage. You can make Stick a fucking excellent character that you'll remember. You give him 10 or 15 minutes to be like, this is a badass character. Maybe you bring in David Carradine to play Stick. It's 2003.
Oh, man.
He's
Actually,
not doing anything.
Oh, David Carradine is Stick. Oh,
Actually,
no.
Rick,
David
Carradine.
Carradine. Wait, hold on a second. Correct me if I'm wrong. David Carradine was busy at this time.
Was he doing Kill Bill?
Yeah, let me just double check the time.
Well, him and Stick.
Yes. Same year Kill Bill Volume 1 came out. Was 2003.
That's why Stick's not in the movie.
Oh man, David! Now I hate this movie again because I could have had David Carradine as Stick.
Rick, good call because I don't think we ever mentioned David Carradine by name as Stick. Man, that would have been fucking great.
Wow, because I low key love David Carradine. Like I used to watch Kung Fu: The Legend Continues because that's what was on Channel 9 when I was a kid. And I absolutely, of course, as everyone loves him in Kill Bill. Now I'm just thinking about that, like, but like focus your mind, Matt.
Man, that would have been fire. But I do think that, this movie, it serves as a Daredevil origin story, but they like kind of fast forward through that shit. And he has a complex origin story, just the fact.
He does,
and this needed to focus on that, and him fighting kind of like his first villain, which should have probably been Bullseye, and that could have been that. And again, like he just never quite gets to Kingpin. We get something kind of like a Dr. Claw situation from like Inspector Gadget or some shit like that. Like he just never quite gets there and stuff. What else is there in this besides? I just wanted anything else I wanted to mention regarding Daredevil before we properly move on to Elektra. Well, there's actually also the whole thing about like I'm not the bad guy kid. That whole scene, which
that didn't need to happen. Like I get what they were doing because like he's the devil, the Daredevil, right? Like, and you got your Christian iconography. He looks like an actual demon, but like the only time that's only mentioned twice in the movie. Once is when he scares the kid. He's like, I'm not the bad guy, which he literally isn't. He just saved that kid. Yeah. And two, when he doesn't kill the Kingpin, though 5 minutes previously he threw Bullseye to his death, or did Bullseye survive that? He survived that, right? Like at the end,
he survived.
I don't remember.
He survived,
but Daredevil
through the fly.
Yeah,
that's right.
Credit scene.
But Daredevil clearly was not trying to save him. So, like that, it wasn't really a payoff where like he doesn't kill Kingpin and goes, "Because I'm not the bad guy." But it's like, I don't know, 5 minutes ago you were, and when the kid called you on it, you weren't. Like this, I get they were trying to do something, it just didn't work.
Yeah, and I think that's for me. That's a lot of this movie is that there are really great intentions in this. It's the execution of this movie is that ruins it for me. And I guess then we can move on to Elektra. So Jennifer Gardner's Elektra. I had mentioned my gripes with it already. Basically, she's not a fucking assassin. That's kind of a big thing for me with Elektra. That's an issue. I think Jennifer Gardner does what she can with what she's got to work with script-wise, but not particularly like great. Yes, she's attractive in this movie. It's peak Jennifer Gardner and stuff
leather.
Like that. Yeah, like she listen. No, that's not listen. That all knocks it out of the park for me, man. Listen, they're not doing anything. They're not saying anything wrong, but it's just not Elektra. This isn't Elektra. I'm not buying that at any point. One of you guys.
I agree.
I was okay with this.
I agree.
Elektra. No, go ahead, Jason.
No, Rick, go ahead.
Oh. No, I was okay with this Elektra because we've seen a couple of different iterations now. And like, yeah, in the newer Daredevil, we get the like more ethnic looking Elektra. You know, she maybe looks the role a bit more. But who do you think will really win in a fight between her and, you know, Garner? Like the bigger, stronger chick, she just has an imposing presence on the screen while being beautiful also. You know what I'm saying? While being beautiful, she's also got an imposing presence. In those scenes where she fights Ben Affleck like 3 times in this movie. They're pretty close to the same size. I think that that plays into my re-envisioning of Elektra. Like if we're gonna, you know, we're all Marvel fans. We all know there's Elseworlds and everything's not 616. And like this is just a version of Elektra. And you know what? This version is less ethnic looking, but she's bigger and she's strong looking. Like she looks like she could fucking throw a punch. So, you know, I appreciate her.
Okay. Jason?
I agree with you that it was disappointing she wasn't an assassin, but to be honest, it didn't bother me as much only because I know Elektra's story. I know that we all know she's not really dead. We're covering that movie next week. And even though I never saw that movie, I kind of read her character as this is also her origin. This is before she's an assassin. I'm assuming, and I'm making heavy assumptions here, that she is an assassin in her own movie. But I was okay with her not being one in this because I'm like, okay, this is her origin. This sets her on her path, just like it sets Daredevil on his. And that's not exactly comic book accurate. But again, how this is an already overstuffed movie. And it's like, I don't know, maybe the answer was not have her in it, but I don't think the answer was to add in more backstory and stuff. And I just think like, I don't know, would have reworking of that character would have forced him to rework the movie. And I mean, that's the thing. It's like to make that character work in a comic book accurate way in this movie, I think would have been a lot of heavy lifting. So I was personally okay with just going, all right, it's her origin story. I'm sure in the future she's an assassin.
She also has, and let's just get to it. Let's not hold off any longer. The first fight we see her, but what, 5 minutes after we meet her, she walks into the coffee shop and everything. She has this square down fight with Matt Murdock in a park when he's trying to get her name. And there's a bunch of children present on a fucking playground. And it is the worst scene in this movie. Like that really was, and that happens half an hour, 40 minutes into this.
That's a rough scene.
Right. That's bad. That is the scene that a lot of people remember this film for. It's
terrible.
It's an awful scene. It is. It's really, really bad.
And I'll tell you why I think it's embarrassing. It's on multiple levels. One, it makes no sense as a fight scene. I'm not even saying it's bad. There's a lot of cool acrobatics in it, but it doesn't make any sense. Secondly, like, I don't know, why doesn't Daredevil just go, hey, I'm Daredevil? Like, and she doesn't even question how he can do what he's doing. It's like, and I'm not saying he can't do it or he's blind, he can't do it. I couldn't do that, and I can see. I couldn't have done that in my 20s. Jesus Christ. Like, and he's very clearly as a character going out of his way to be like, hey, I'm blind, but I know what's going on. Watch out for that car coming. It's about to rain. And I'm just, it was so fucking dumb on so many levels. Like, it doesn't make any sense because right off the bat, as soon as she thinks Daredevil killed her dad, she should have been, shit, Daredevil's Matt Murdock. I saw those moves.
That's actually a pretty fair point. Wasn't where I was taking it, but that's a pretty fair point. Yeah, the fight scene is just, it's bonkers. Well, she does question, I think, at one point she says something like,
how did you know how to do it? How'd you learn how to do it?
No. Are you sure you're blind?
Oh, that's
and
it.
And then,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But there is something there with it, but like that scene is crazy. I'm sorry. It's fucking broad daylight. There's a bunch of kids around. You're trying to nothing.
It's a cutscene from a video game. They literally have a moment where they square off like it's Mortal Kombat. They're going back and forth, and they throw their coats off, and it's like round one, fights.
By the way, nice job with the Mortal Kombat voice. That was pretty good.
Thank you.
That was great.
that was well done.
Thank you.
Think of things I thought I was not going to hear or say tonight that was definitely one of them.
It's always a surprise doing the show.
Rick, well, I guess you mentioned what your thoughts on. I mean, at least for the fucking, are you with us on this bashing at least of the fucking playground fight, or did you forgive this too?
So this scene, I'm going to agree with you. This is the worst scene in a movie. But it's only made even worse by the fact that they wanted this scene to be like their big, like, bam, get us rolling into the movie. Like, you can tell that they spent money to shoot this scene. And you can tell that there's a number of things that they stole the video game opening to the fight. And then they did all the freaking hidden tiger dragon stuff, where, you know, not only are they hand fighting, but they're cinematically in slow-mo floating through the air for emphasis. And they were just borrowing from so much source material, a case of throw shit against the wall and see what sticks. And what stuck was the shit that they hurled at the wall. It stuck to the wall at the end of the scene.
Rick, you know what didn't stick? Having a character named fucking Stick in this movie, that didn't stick.
What didn't stick is the origin story.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Another thing I want to talk about with Elektra. So, Jason, you actually, perfect segue for this. You mentioned the rain scene. So we have a thing in this movie where Daredevil, after their first date and stuff like that, he takes her to this rooftop because he is, you know, through his senses, is the ultimate weatherman as well. He knows exactly the moment it's about to start raining.
Ultimate weatherman.
I mean, he could be. I mean, move over, Sam Champion, Nick Gregory. Yeah, it's fine. Whatever, Mr. G, get the fuck out of here. We got Matt Murdock in this movie. And they have this thing where he explains to Elektra, like, hey, when the raindrops hit something, it gives off this sonar sound, like it's almost like I can see again. It's basically like verbatim what he says to her. And they have this like romantic scene where the raindrops are coming down, he can see her face and stuff, and he's like, wow, you're really beautiful, and things like that. So later on, this has two payoffs. The next one is after Elektra's father is murdered, and they're at the funeral. They're discussing it. Get it? Elektra's in not the best mood right there, right? You can see she's upset and everything. She's angry. She wants revenge and everything. It starts to rain. And Matt, you can see, like, eagerly takes off his glasses. He wants a glimpse to see her again. She pulls out a fucking umbrella. Like, what kind of bullshit is that? I mean,
what did he take his glasses off for? They weren't keeping him from seeing her.
Well, hold on. This is true. Good
point. Very good point.
And I don't disagree with you whatsoever. Okay, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, he has that visual in his mind differently, I guess. With that, that's a fair point, though, that the glasses should make any fucking difference. Granted, what's up with that? Like, why did he exactly? What's with, like, stomping on the guy, man? The dude's blind. You supposedly are still in love with this guy, and we're pulling out the umbrella the moment he gets to actually sort of see you again. I thought that was a fucked up move.
I mean, in all fairness, her dad just died. Like,
her
dad was just brutally murdered by Daredevil, so she thinks. She's just not in the mood.
I get it, but I just think that it was a bit unnecessary. I'm sorry. I've always found that to be like a stupid thing that was there. I don't know. just kind of.
Doesn't it make you wonder? So he does this thing. Matt does this thing when hot chicks walk into the coffee shop, and he instantly knows that they're hot. If it's not raining, how the fuck does he know that?
He smells them.
Yeah, I think he goes off of some sort of scent and stuff like
pheromone.
that. Like, I don't think he really is like, literally that they're and stuff like that. By the way, speaking of Matt's love life, that fucking voicemail that he's left by some.
Oh God.
What the fuck was that, man?
I get that.
I guess her name was.
That's to show us that, like, because again, this is another thread that they meant to hammer home, but didn't quite. Because it's there a couple times, but it just doesn't. Because the whole thing is like he's a guy who doesn't get into relationships, right? Happy, not happy. I keep calling him Happy in my head. Foggy even calls him on it and says, "Oh, you'd rather end it before you try it," and I get into it. Like, I think that was to set that up. I don't think, like, again, this movie's overstuffed. I don't think we needed it. But you have this whole thing of like, oh, Matt, well, I haven't seen you in a couple days. And, well, I want to tell you this in person, but, you're never around. So we're broken up now. I don't want to see you anymore. It's like, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's such, I don't know, that's an awkward voice. But isn't that an in-person conversation?
Yeah, and I guess she states that she wanted to, but he's never around, and he disappears at 3 a.m. to do his Daredevil thing and whatnot.
Which implies he's there at 2 a.m. Have that conversation before, like, before you look. I'm not saying that you can't bang after you break up, but have that conversation before you bang. Have your after breakup sex, and then let him go his way at 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to leave that weird voicemail.
Yeah, plus the voicemail sounded like damn it. One of the women that Patrick Bateman dated in American Psycho, also like the deadpan one with like the fucking you know what I mean? Like it's the one that was all coked up and everything like that.
Wow.
Just reminded me of that like immediately.
That's probably when she hung up after leaving that voicemail. She probably went out with Patrick Bateman.
It's fair.
What you didn't hear in part of what's cut from the director's cut is at the end of that message, you just hear, "Oh, wait, is that Susu Studio playing?" Click.
And I guess that could also take us to Bullseye. So Colin Farrell plays Bullseye in this movie. He seems to be one that a lot of people were on board with because his character and his performance is so completely batshit crazy. As soon as he enters the movie, insanity. That's the part of the movie where shit starts jumping off. Is when we see Colin, we meet Bullseye. As soon as Kingpin says, "Get me Bullseye," there's a cut to him in Ireland. I'm assuming he's in a fucking Irish pub. He's playing He's playing darts and everything, and that's when he kills the dude.
Looking away from the dartboard.
He's playing darts. He kills the fucking guy with the paper clips and things like that. Colin Farrell's fucking wild in this movie, man. Completely fucking crazy.
I think I actually love
he
Colin
wasn't
Farrell.
working off of the script.
You think he was just improvising?
Yeah, I'm convinced he was improvising most of his scenes. I mean, it just looks so. He looks so natural that you're almost like he's not acting in a lot of the scenes. It just looks like he's being fucking silly.
Yeah, and he has some of the dialogue that works the best in this movie. So maybe he really did go completely off. It was like, this script is fucking trash. I'm just gonna do my own thing, and they can just keep it or not keep it.
I got to admit, I love Colin Farrell in this. I actually am a big Colin Farrell fan. I wasn't for a while because I misunderstood him. Because Hollywood misunderstood him. Like Hollywood for a while was putting him as like, action leads and leading men, but he's a super, super talented character actor, as we've seen, right? In lots of things. If you've seen in Bruges, the Batman movie where he's the Penguin, like the Horrible Bosses, like he's a really good character actor who just happens to be incredibly good looking. And I think that's why this is so perfect for him, because he's just like, or raw. I can't do an Irish accent right now, but he does like he's a character, right? Like he's just going. I only have one problem with Bullseye, and that's the weird tattoo thing. Like I don't love the aesthetic. I get it. And I'm not attacking the movie. Like this was early 2000s. We have to have the X-Men in black. We can't, we don't really have comics accurate costumes. It's got to be darker and realistic. And so I get it. But I just think that this was never explained. And therefore it just seemed very odd to me. It might as well have just been like a fucking cap if they wanted to go that route. But I just didn't love that particular part of it. Everything else I loved. Bullseye has my favorite moment in the movie. Favorite moment in the movie is at the end when they're fighting in that church, and like Daredevil hits Bullseye near the plate glass window. It looks at the plate glass window, and he fucking jumps up, kicks it, and just grabs all of these shards of glass, and just like, all right, fuck you, buddy. Favorite moment of the movie.
So I didn't know you were going there with your favorite moment, because I was actually going to say that was one of the wonkiest moments, I thought, because he doesn't individually throw the glass. He catches all of this glass, and as it's stacked, he throws it in one shot, and it just goes everywhere.
Beautiful. He's that powerful.
My favorite Bullseye moment from the theatrical cut is, yes, that will lead you to believe there's Bullseye stuff in the director's cut, but the theatrical cut, it's when he kills the woman on the plane. There's this woman he's taking a plane from Ireland to go to New York that he's just been hired. And it's almost like extremely airplane type where someone's yapping and stuff like that. Rick, by the way, you're on mute. You got to unmute yourself. Okay.
I was being quiet.
That's all right. As I look like you had something, you were about to say something eventually. So he goes ahead, and this woman's going, yapping, and he's got his headphones on. He's fucking listening to whatever the fuck he's listening to. And he takes this fucking bag of peanuts, opens it up, flings it at her. One goes down her throat, and he fucking kills her instantly. And a flight attendant comes by and is like, oh, she's sleeping. Would you like anything else? It's like, more peanuts. And then just goes with that. That's my favorite Bullseye scene of this fucking movie. That shit is awesome.
No, I mean that's a good scene. What I liked about the other one is
my favorite Bullseye scene. Oh, I was gonna say my favorite Bullseye scene in this film's got to be when he's talking to Kingpin and he's like, "I want a fucking costume." Or they call it a uniform or a costume?
No, it's funny because in the theatrical cut, he's like, I want a bloody costume. And then in the director's cut, it's I want a fucking costume. Because I was like, oh, there you go. Now I can see that's improved. But you can see that that's what he wanted to say in that scene. But to follow up on that, Kingpin does not give him a costume. He just says that cool line and then it goes fucking nowhere. It's the truth. I thought we were gonna get like
you can wear your.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get like
no, you can wear your clothes in the Matrix.
Yeah, right. I thought for a moment, when I first saw this movie, I thought we were gonna get like, holy shit, are we gonna get some dope version of the comics accurate Bullseye costume? No, the line just literally goes.
It's a legendary costume.
It is.
But what I'm saying is iconic. It's iconic.
But when he asks for it, it goes fucking nowhere because it just gets blown off, and that's it. It was so weird.
How cool would
that's what they were saving for the sequel.
If he would have had a leather Bullseye suit.
Fuck it.
There you go.
At this point in time, everyone but Spider-Man had to have all leather fucking costumes.
It's true.
That was like the big thing for superheroes.
It was the thing. Blade had all leather.
Yeah, it's true. Spider-Man was the only one who escaped it. Because an all leather Spider-Man costume would have been weird.
Leather was the thing in the early 2000s.
Yes. So I guess then we can just talk about the whole big fight after we get through the main characters. So that brings us to Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin, who is also, for me, one of the strengths of this movie, along with Bullseye. Like, he's really good. He's fucking physically imposing. He looks like what the Kingpin should look like in terms of physical stature and everything like that. I don't remember people losing their minds, because it was Michael Clark Duncan, and in a criticism way. I don't remember that. Maybe it did happen. I don't know. I don't think enough people knew who the fuck Kingpin was, like in mainstream, to be able to criticize.
Good point.
So that's why I think we got it. But he's good in this movie, though. I really like him in this movie. And as far as his writing parts go, I don't really have any issues. I mean, there's the somewhat quirky thing where he tells Wesley to leave at the end fight, and he's like, I was raised in the Bronx. You wouldn't know anything about this.
No, but see, I like that, though. Again, I like that because
it's a little cheeky, but it's fine. Yeah, I get it.
It's cheeky, but it's definitely not the cheesiest thing in the movie.
No, definitely not.
I think like they set him up kind of like they do in the comic book, where if you just see him, he just looks like a big guy or a fat guy, or but like no, he can get his hands dirty. He's not above that. And I do like that. Now I don't know if we're jumping because I don't remember if this was the director's cut or the theatrical. If it's the director's cut, stop me and we'll table it. But he does have the interaction with Wesley in the beginning where he's like, "Oh yeah, you don't like the physical stuff. I do."
That was
and so. Oh, okay, all right. So we'll table that till then.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I don't know. I kind of like that. I kind of like the. Nah, you're not from Harlem. You don't know that sometimes, or not Harlem, the Bronx. Sometimes you got to take care of shit on your own. And I don't know. It worked for me.
Yeah, like once he knows Bullseye fails, he's just like, yeah, fucking this guy's coming for me. It's time to fucking like. It's no more games anymore. Like we're gonna just do this and that's it. Rick, your thoughts on Kingpin?
I thought he did a great job in the film. He's him and Vincent D'Onofrio are so different. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Their portrayals of the Kingpin are completely fucking different. But I appreciate his, and especially for the time, like he was the Green Mile. He was the big guy on TV. So when he was drafted for the, and he's a big guy is all they know. So he played the role of a big guy perfectly. He's got a good voice for the role. He looks cool in the suits, and his suits being so square brought me back to like the 80s Kingpin that I love, that I'm a big fan of. The fight scene was a freaking letdown and a half.
Thank you, because I thought
it could have been more exciting, considering how exciting all the other fight scenes were. And he fights the Kingpin, he's just like swinging a stick at him for like 5 minutes. But other than the fight
he takes
scene,
out his
which I'm
kneecaps
sure they might have been limited. Right. And then he lets him live.
Yeah.
The guy that killed his dad. This other guy, the C Train, chops him in half. But then the guy that kills his dad, not like, nah, dude, you can go to jail. Anyway,
his dad, and he thinks he killed his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was the whole payoff, right? The whole alleged payoff. He's not the bad guy. Led to that. And it's something that just doesn't work.
If you reverse the two, the guy that gets chopped in the C Train and the Kingpin, reverse their justice being served, and the movie makes a lot more sense.
No,
well, it's supposed to be character growth.
No, but the failure here is the use of the Ben Urich character. This is the Ben Urich character's job, and the writing fucked it up, because what it should have been was Daredevil was this fucking vigilante killing people, and Ben Urich was on his trail, and then he's brutal, and that's what's being printed, and that's why the kid is afraid, because wow, no, I've read about you, the Daredevil, right? And then puts it in his head, wait a minute, I don't want to be the bad guy, I want to be the good guy. And then by the end, he has that moment. Like, so yeah, he could have had the guy chopped in half, the guy from True Romance chopped in half in the beginning, and that was disproportionate to what happened. But you needed the character growth, and you needed his people to perceive him as a villain, which no one ever does.
No,
except
like
for that one kid.
Well, the kid, and
No,
then
never does.
The thing that Foggy shows him, the artist rendering of Daredevil into Gargoyle. That's the only two goofy. No, I'm not saying it works, Jason, at all. It's stupid as fuck. But I'm just saying this is what they're now. Again, there's a theme we're having here. That there's a lot of intentions, just the execution not great on a lot of these things. I guess before we get into side characters, the fight scenes. So, Rick, I agree with you 100%. The fucking big showdown they started off Daredevil, Kingpin, which I also thought was fucking cheesy as shit that happened. And it kind of now it's making me think of Mortal Kombat with fucking Jason's voice in my head. It's like it's the character selection. Daredevil, Kingpin, round one, fight. Yeah, that just it doesn't work. And the fight's goofy and it's over in 2 seconds, takes out the kneecaps, and they have that dumb conversation about, oh, well, I'm gonna tell everybody they're coming for you. Like, no, they're gonna believe you that the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen is the one who took you down. Fuck that. No one's gonna respect you in Rikers. Like, it just none of that. That whole scene just does not work for me at all. And the thing that really doesn't work is the fight before that. The Daredevil bullseye thing, and then Jason, I know you like the scene with the glass. But
no, I like that moment. I didn't say I like the fight. I like that moment.
So it starts off with Elektra versus Daredevil, right? Let's just because it goes through phases. Elektra versus Daredevil on the rooftops. Daredevil's like, I didn't kill your father. You know, I know you thought it was me and stuff like that. And she fucking stabs him with one of her sides. And, you know, he's pretty wounded through a lot of it. That leads to Bullseye showing up on the rooftops, somehow finding her, whatever. And because he's sent by Kingpin to kill her. And he's going to take out Daredevil for free. And
because he made me miss.
Exactly, which is just bizarre. But whatever. He's so crazy in this movie where I can sort of buy him wanting to become obsessed with Daredevil. Whatever. Fine. Simply because of that. Their fight scene happens, and that's one of my issues with Elektra. I'm sorry. I think Bullseye fucking dispatches her like that. Like, it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. And at that point, I guess I was led to believe that Elektra was the better fighter. And yes, I know this Elektra at an early point of her character growth. Fine. I'll go with that. It just seems like she's the much better trained fighter and gets dispatched fairly easily. He throws one of her sides back at her, goes through her hand. He tries to mess with her, and she's like, no, get away. And then he fucking kills her. He just stabs her in that. And then Matt is laying on the floor, still injured the entire time, but then somehow gets the motivation to get up or something after Elektra gets killed, or the anger. I don't know. It's very convoluted. Yeah, it's very convoluted. But then there's I'm sorry, and I'll say it. The way that these guys are running and jumping off from rooftop to rooftop to rooftop, the floating, it drove me nuts. These are all fairly unpowered human beings, and it's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon all over the place. These people are fucking jumping story to story, leaps tall buildings at a single bound. Fuck you, Superman. Yeah. Check these guys out. They can do it very easily. I don't know. It pissed me off.
I think Rick said something before that really encapsulates my biggest problem with this movie is it's a product of its time, and it's riffing from the things around it. And I don't want to jump into the theatrical cut, but there is a line in the theatrical cut, which I do want to point to, that kind of is the worst example of this. And I'm glad it was cut, not the theatrical, the directors, I'm sorry. I'm glad it was cut from the theatricals, but there's a whole conversation about fucking Fight Club in that. And it's like, you know, what the worst thing you can do in a movie is to date it by talking about the media at the of the time or ripping off the media of the time. Why did Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon work? Because no one ever did anything like that before. Was it? Or mainstream wise, anyway, it was interesting and it made sense in the context of the world. Why it doesn't work here? Because it's not Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's very clearly just riffing off of something that was popular, and it dates the movie really poorly.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I also think that it's one of the things with this movie. I think this movie's tone is all over the place. It wants to be dark and gritty at times, and then we get the fucking playground scene, and then we get the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon shit. And it's just bouncing all over the place. And as much as I enjoy Colin Farrell's Bullseye, if you're going with the dark and gritty tone, it looks like they're trying to set up, then he's in a different movie. It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie that he's in. But
I'd rather watch the movie he's in. I really want to see the movie he's in.
I agree. I'm more on board with that. Yeah. I'm fine with that. Or at the time, he was in SWAT, which I enjoyed SWAT for what it was at the time. And
oh my God, I haven't thought about that. I saw that in the theater, like right after I broke up with someone.
SWAT,
just like it was the
phone booth.
Preston went to SWAT.
Yeah, phone booth was out at the time.
I've never actually seen that movie. Is that worth anything?
I would like to rewatch it again. I haven't seen it since back in the day, and it was part of my DVD booklet collection, which I mentioned vanished, and this movie was in there too, and I don't know where the fuck
the Colin
Farrell
collection.
It was the Colin SWAT was there too. I did own SWAT as well.
You had the Colin Farrell collection. Please tell me you own Horrible Bosses.
Oh, of course. I own the Blu-ray of Horrible Bosses. I fucking love that movie.
Too. It's a great movie.
I don't like the second one really, but I love the first one.
Yeah, agreed. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Rick, what's your take? I know you had some opinions on the fight scene stuff. Go ahead.
I don't own the Colin Farrell trilogy. but like Iron Fist season 1, I feel like they focused on the fight scenes. I feel like they dumped a ton of money into them. I feel like they tried to make them as good as people in other movies made their fight scenes instead of trying to do something original. And I think that's a big part of where they could have set this movie apart is instead of trying to look like the Matrix in this scene and then Crouching Tiger in this scene, like have a hallway scene like Netflix invented. Like give Daredevil his own thing. And I feel like that was just a huge shortcoming. The fight scenes, I don't hate them. I get that they tried hard. The animation was good. And however, they didn't try to make them unique. They didn't try to do their own thing and carve their own niche. And I think that hurt them overall in the end is they weren't willing to take risk, they were just trying to carbon copy things that were working at the time. And for the most part with this film, I give it like a 60 or a 65. Like the carbon copying did work. You used good actors that people liked, but the inability to create their own fucking brand, it didn't just hurt the movie. It hurt the fight scenes. It hurt a lot of things. I think that's a big distraction for this film with me is they didn't try to create their own brand. They didn't try to be original, and they didn't try to take risk. And I feel like it hurt them in the end because of that.
Yeah, I think that's well put. I don't.
Yeah, very well put.
I don't disagree with any of that. Like this is a very 2003 movie for a lot of reasons, and I think it's also falls under the same thing that I feel like we talked about with The Punisher a couple of weeks ago. The Thomas Jane one was. This is still very much a time period where the comic book movie was going through some sort of, they were discovering how to make it, right? Like this movie had to be what it was, I guess, in a way for us to eventually get the MCU because it was like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And it's important to also remember Kevin Feige is a producer on this movie.
He is.
Yes, he is listed, and also with Hulk. Now, I don't know how much input he really had, not as much as the MCU, because in the MCU, that's his baby. Like, that's all of it. But I feel like the failures of some of these Marvel movies that did fail in between Spider-Man and Iron Man, he was almost like taking notes on, like learning on the job of like, what do I do to make this MCU thing, a shared cinematic universe thing work? Don't do any of the crap that they've been doing with these movies. So in a way, it was almost like they had to pay their dues before it was allowed to become great, in a weird way. I guess the other side characters, that's kind of what I've always seen it as. That's why I think it's fascinating now that we have the MCU 30-something movies in and multiple TV shows, is to take a look back at this era, because it is important, like to see how we got here. The side characters, we get Jon Favreau, speaking of the MCU, the director of Iron Man and Iron Man 2, and as a huge part of the MCU. And Foggy, he's Foggy Nelson in this movie. And, he's Happy Hogan in Iron Man. So it's kind of interesting that we get, like, sort of sidekicks to the main hero both times for Jon Favreau. And Jon Favreau has now become Mr. Star Wars and moved on to this whole Mandalorian thing. He's fairly useless in this movie, though.
And terrible. And racist.
Oh, here it is. Now it's
there you go.
We're gonna do this.
I'm gonna throw it out to the audience. I'm just gonna throw it out to the audience. All right.
Yes.
I clocked. Can I reference the director's cut?
You can reference whatever you like. We're not. I'm holding back full details to go because I think
that's
the
fine.
next thing we just compare. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's fine. So, all right. First thing, this is the reference I made on the top of the show, and I conceded this is the racism of the script, not of Foggy, but Foggy's involved. All right. Mr. Lee, the Chinese guy, gives us the fish. Why couldn't it just be, hey, oh God, you helped the fishmonger, he gave us the fish. Why did it have to be Mr. Lee? Huh? Racism. That's number one. Number two, he comments, Electra Nacho, she sounds like something I'd order at a Mexican restaurant. That's terrible. It's a terrible thing to say. Imagine if it was like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't, you know what? I don't even want to make something racist. I don't want to say something racist, so I can't even tell you what to imagine. It sounds terrible, all right? And third, and Rick, I gave a lot of thought to what you texted today, and I'm going to address it. In the director's cut, when Coolio's a part of it, we'll get to it. Coolio's their client, and Foggy goes, well, what's he going to pay us in chronic? Now, I know, Rick, in the text today, you said, well, he says he smoked a lot of weed. But we are talking early 2000s, right? When you say, oh, what are they going to do? Chronic? There is an implication. There's a tone there, right? He's not saying, what's he going to do? Pay us in weed? That'd have been a different story. Wouldn't have felt that was racist. But the fact that chronic was a big part of late 90s, early 2000s hip hop, it is associated with a certain, type of people, to quote Foggy Nelson here. And I don't think that was accidental that he said chronic. So I'm just going to say this, not Foggy Nelson, the character, this very shitty iteration of Foggy Nelson, because this is a shitty iteration. And for more reasons than this, I think #racist. Taking back Foggy Nelson from this racist shit.
Favreau Foggy. I don't know. To me, and Rick, I told you this the other day, but I think all Foggy does in this movie is basically tell Matt how hot Electra is. And he's not lying. It's fine. But that's basically all he does in this movie. He doesn't really serve any other purpose besides just telling Matt that on numerous occasions, and talks about alligators in the sewers. That's literally all he has to do in this movie.
Oh, he does a lot of the poor lawyering.
Yes. But that's more. Hold on.
Blows the
but hold on to that. No, but Rick, hold on to that, because believe it or not, that's actually only in the director's cut.
Yeah.
That is not in the theatrical version. We get none of that. The theatrical cut, that is it. We'll get to the director's cut in a minute. That's all this motherfucker does in the theatrical cut.
No. He does one more thing in the theatrical cut, and that is he gives his best friend / business partner mustard to put in his car. His blind best friend mustard because Mr. Lee paid them in fish. Because that damn Chinaman paid them in fish. He's giving his blind best friend mustard, and he puts mustard in. And I'm going to say that's not even the worst part. The worst part is when Matt Murdock, of course, switches it, because Matt Murdock's not a fucking idiot, and he knows his best friend's a racist piece of shit. So he's and ableist. No, now I'm making shit up. But he switches it, and you see him take the sip of the mustard. But after the Electronachos thing, he's like, "Well, you got to make it up to me and tell me how it is." Make what up to you? You drank the mustard coffee you wanted me to drink. Get out of here. Make this up to you.
Yeah, you created it. Now enjoy it.
Right. It's not like Matt Murdock put mustard in his coffee.
And I guess there's one thing that this movie does very well, but we'll get to that in a second. Is then I guess Ben Urich, played by I'm gonna butcher
Joey Pants, Joey Pantoliano, dude.
Joey Pantoliano.
You guys could have won an easy $20 off of me this whole time if any one of you at any point before I watched this movie went, Joey Pants is in this movie. And I would have been like, bullshit, who? And you would have been like, I bet you $20. And I'd be like, yeah, I'll take your money. And then I would have owed you $20. I completely forgot he was in this movie.
Listen, he's good as Ben Urich. I don't have an issue with it.
I like him.
I mean, yeah,
I love
he's
Joey
definitely
Pants.
not an issue with it. He has this weird scene where after the C-Train murder thing that he throws his cigarette at the floor and a big DD, another superhero lighting up their logo in fire, apparently was a thing during the 2000s because it happened in the Punisher. It happened here. He was actually the OG of it. Then the Punisher does it in 2005, and then Batman does it in 2008. So apparently during the 2000s, every superhero started lighting their fucking logos on fire in random places. Joey Pants, great. I always love seeing him. He's cool as Ben Urich in this. I don't even have, his character's fine. I don't even have anything else to say. He does have a magical delete button on his computer though at the end of the film.
Oh.
He's about to write the story in the New York Post about Murdock being Daredevil. Yeah, you're dying laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's 2 buttons: print or delete. He literally touches delete because he changes his mind, and it fucking wipes out the entire article.
He does, but I also love
not how computers work.
And I also love the stuff that you get hung up on in these movies. Like,
oh, it's stupid shit. I don't deny it at all. It's dumb shit.
I love it.
It's just like, what?
You're right. There is no magic delete button.
Yeah, man. Listen, as in Reacher, they do say on multiple occasions, in an investigation, details matter. We're investigating Daredevil, okay? Ben Urich is investigating Matt Murdock. Details matter, Jason.
See, so I'll get back to it. My only problem with Ben Urich is he was not handled properly by the writers. Like, it should have been. I think Daredevil. Everyone thinks Daredevil's a bad guy. I think there might be something else there. I'm looking into it. I can't help because I'm a journalist. I got to publish the bad stuff, but I think there's something else there. And then at the end, instead of just deleting it, maybe he writes a positive story. Like, he really should have functioned as Daredevil's PR. Like, not I'm boiling it down, but he really should have functioned as the reason Daredevil goes from being someone who people think is the villain, the devil, to the good guy. And I think they really dropped the ball on this. The only thing he gets to do is be like, hey there, I paid your friend Kevin Smith to give me this thing. I know it's yours. I recognized it. So go save your girlfriend.
Yeah, she? Yeah.
Yeah. I got no Joey Pants. So I bought a horse, Tony. I bought a horse. I can't do it.
And at the end of the movie, he just tells him, go get him, Matt. And I don't know. I think they allude that line there makes me think that that's where this was going. That it was going to be like, hey, he was going to be Matt Murdock's PR guy, Daredevil's PR guy moving forward. That was where the end of the movie after the magic button, kind of left it off at. So I don't know.
I just think it could have been done better. But Joey Pants was working, and that's what counts.
Yeah. Rick, you got anything on Ben Urich before we jump around? Because this movie does a great job with Easter eggs. I will say that. That's one of the strongest things I think it does.
Does he report to J. Jonah Jameson?
No, because he works at the New York Post. I think that would have been
a great Daily Bugle moment.
That's right.
That would have been. But they didn't own the rights. They didn't own the rights to him.
In the comic, does he work for the Daily Bugle?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't believe so. I think it's a competing.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing of Ben Urich. Trying to think of it now. Well, no. Actually, there might be some Ben Urich in the Daily Bugle at some point.
Okay.
Yes, actually, there is. Now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, there is.
How many papers can there be in town? I mean, how many rooftops can there be? With fucking Bullseye wandering rooftops and running into Daredevil, he could have easily ran into Spider-Man or anyone else that was hopping around on rooftops that night.
Well, it does happen in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. There is a episode where Tim and I constantly reference where they are Spider-Man and Human Torch and Spider-Man, Iceman, and Firestar having a race randomly with their full costume, and they run into Dr. Doom, who's standing on a fucking rooftop operating a machine.
Why not?
So that's kind of, I guess, what could have happened here. If they weren't selling off the rights to various studios, you could have had something like that.
There is one more Ben Urich thing I want to say, and this is less of a character thing and more of a trope for comic book movies that I realized while watching this. And that is, as a kid, specifically because of comic books, I really felt newspaper writers had all the fucking power in the world, right? Because like this guy and, we're talking about the Daily Bugle, Peter Parker, like how many... if you go to Batman 89, Knox, right? Like every superhero has like the reporter. And I guess now watching, different times, but now I'm looking back and I'm going, I don't know, isn't print kind of a dead media? I mean, who the hell fuck's reading the Daily Bugle these days? but it's funny, I guess, because comic books was a print medium. That was what they put forward. Like,
you're overlooking
if you were a
Lois
reporter. Yeah, right.
Lois Lane.
Clark Kent. Yeah. Like, if you're a reporter, you're just one step below a superhero.
Well, I would say, though, I read newspapers when we were younger and stuff like that. I used to buy the newspaper every freaking day, and that was where you got all your information from.
No. Absolutely.
So, but that's why I thought it was also genius that in the MCU, when they brought in J. Jonah Jameson, it was more of like a YouTube, like type thing, like internet thing, which was a smart transition.
He's like Alex Jones in the MCU.
Yeah, kind of InfoWars type fucking situation, which I thought was a really smart.
That's what I got from it.
Yeah. So I mentioned two of the strongest things that I think this movie has besides its cast is the Easter eggs, and to clock all the Easter eggs in this is a lot. So there's the Stan Lee cameo that we get, which was traditional at that point, and also every time I see one of these things now, like I'm gonna be honest, like it makes you choke up, like, oh man, like that sucks.
I understand.
So there's that. But Matt's father, right? He fights John Romita on the billboard that's in this. Like the character's name is John Romita that he fights, who is, a Daredevil artist there as well. And Jose Quesada is the guy who gets killed on the C train, changed from Joe Quesada, also connected to Daredevil. Kevin Smith, who's in this movie briefly, playing a character named Jack Kirby, which we had known, obviously, huge Marvel legend right there. And Kevin Smith himself wrote Daredevil for a run.
No, I
at
got
one
something. I got something
Yeah.
weirder for you with Kevin Smith's
ahead.
character. Kirby is not his name. They call him Kirby. If you
Okay.
look it up on the IMDb, he has a different name. So the Kirby reference is even more random.
Okay, so I have it on Google here. And it's
Kevin
listed
Smith's
as Jack
character's
Kirby.
name. What? All right, I got to review my sources then, because on mine, his character on the script has one name, but then they called him Kirby in the movie.
I'm looking up on
Interesting.
IMDb and no. It's actually not even listed on IMDb. That's kind of weird. Okay. So they have him listed as Jack Kirby though in there, so I thought that was actually kind of fun to go along with it as well. So we talked about Joey Pants, but we also get AJ from The Sopranos, who's also in this movie as a bully, Robert Eiler, who's listed as bully number 1 in this. So I thought that was a pretty fun.
I knew I
at the time.
recognized that kid.
Yeah.
I knew I recognized him, but I couldn't place him.
And also Frank Miller has a cameo in this, another Daredevil writer.
Who's Frank Miller in this?
He's some dude with a pen at one point that he has. Like, he's a very quick cameo.
Okay.
It's like quick and you'll miss it.
Huh.
So I thought that was actually kind of fun that was in here. Let me see if there's anyone else I had clocked while going through this. No, that was it. John Romita, Quesada, and pretty much anyone. And again, Kevin Smith, ironically, who wrote Daredevil, playing a character named Jack Kirby, I thought was a lot of fun.
Was this before he wrote Daredevil or after?
After, which is also what pissed me off, is that my thought at the time was, wait, if Kevin Smith was available, why the fuck didn't he direct Daredevil?
Yeah, or at least write it. At least
yes, or write it. Fine.
I get you don't want to give Kevin Smith a superhero movie. His
at
movies
this time.
Did you guys read Guardian
even
Devil?
Now.
I did not read Guardian Devil, no.
No, I didn't either.
It's pretty bad. I've read it and I've watched a couple of breakdowns on it, and it's not that Kevin Smith wasn't a comic book writer when he wrote for that series, if that makes any sense. He wasn't developed yet. So there's too much writing in Guardian Devil. So I'm not sure if Guardian Devil's not a great storyline. It's not great. It's good, but not great. I'm not sure if he would have done a great job with writing the movie based off of how he wrote the comic book. It's not like it's Bendis. It's not like you're taking Michael Bendis from writing a comic book and then having him write a movie. Like Kevin Smith didn't read Guardian Angel. It's an interesting story, but while you're reading it, you're going to notice it reads strangely. There's too much narration and just kind of too much narration in it.
Which we get, we get some narration in this. But I will still say, though, that at this point in Kevin Smith's career in 2002, let's just say, or even a couple of years before that, he was, I enjoy Kevin Smith's films, so I still would have rather him write this than what we got. Like, at least to write a screenplay. I would have trusted that versus whatever the hell this is supposed to be. You know, it's just, yeah.
I think I would rather Kevin Smith have written it only because I know he cares about the character. It might have, I'm sure it still would have been flawed. I've never read Rick what he wrote for Daredevil. I heard the story. I thought it was a cool story idea, but I never read it. I could see it being overwritten. I would take an overwritten Daredevil movie that has good sensibilities over what we got. And again, I did enjoy this movie the other day when I watched it. But like as a fan of the character, like I'd rather a sloppy movie made by someone who loves the character or knows the character than a well executed Hollywood movie that is soulless. And I'm not saying this is soulless, but I also don't think it's sold either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
it's like
for
a
me,
glamour project. I'm kind of with you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to me it falls back on Mark Steven Johnson, the director here. That's who the execution of this movie. I mean, to me, that's who it lands on, and it's
Yeah.
a problem. And he also did Ghost Rider in 2007, which I don't know how
Not a good movie.
Yeah, I don't understand how one watches this and is like, yes, let's get him to do Ghost Rider as well. Like, no.
Yeah.
That's Sony who picked him up, different studio, but still, like, I unless he was signed maybe at the same time, I don't know. And another thing I wanted to mention was the soundtrack of this movie is fantastic, and you've got Fuel, Hoobastank, obviously. Evanescence does two
House of Pain.
2 tracks in this. House of Pain also on this.
Mhm.
Moby even has a track on this thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll tell you something. I watch everything we watch, I watch because I never know what Ed's going to start off with. I never know what song he picks. I don't ask him. I play the game with myself of what would I pick and what do I think Ed will pick.
okay.
This is the first movie that I was like, oh, I'd pick this. I think Ed will pick this. Oh no, I would pick this and Ed's going to pick this. And then I got to the Evanescence song and I went, oh, that's stupid of me. This is clearly what's going to be picked. But that just goes to show you how good the soundtrack is. Like,
Yeah, no, there was definitely it was definitely between it was going to be Evanescence the whole time, Bring Me to Life, even though Evanescence has 2 songs on this soundtrack.
Yeah.
So I
They
thought
do.
that well,
And
they
both
were
are
huge.
good.
Yeah, no, they are, and they were huge at this time. This was their time, like early 2000s and stuff, mid 2000s. Rob
You know what I
Zombie.
found out?
Go ahead.
Found out today from friend of the show, Walter,
Mhm.
Mr. Trivia. Evanescence started off as a Christian rock band, apparently, which is why they were cast in this, or they got this gig because of the Christian iconography of the Daredevil character.
Mhm.
And
What?
these songs don't like speak to me as Christian rock
No.
songs, but I kind of blew me away. Like, wow, I didn't realize that's why they got the gig.
Yeah, I didn't realize that's why they got the gig. I mean, I knew that they were just blowing up at this time. Like, Bring Me to Life is like that's their song, right? Like that's the whole that's their main song. We also get The Calling, which was another popular band at the time. Seether is on this, which was also on the Punisher 2005 soundtrack as well. Rob Zombie, who was also on the Punisher Warzone soundtrack, who did a song that I made fun of when we did that review because it was basically using so many plot points. It was like the old school soundtrack where it was like, wait, we need to tell you, like, Frank Castle goes ahead and murders Kit Jigsaw in his fucking like heavy metal rock song. This song, like, so the name of the track he made for this was Man Without Fear, and he does the same shit again.
Oh God! Let me tell you about Daredevil, Man Without Fear, Man.
Yeah, it's like Matt Murdock is going ahead and he's blind and he got his father died and this and that, and he's gonna go ahead and he loves Elektra and Bullseye's gonna pay for this and blah blah. And it's like, come on, like what are we doing, dude?
His friend Foggy's kind of racist, but it's the early 2000s, so it's kind of okay.
Oh, man,
Your movie recap.
that's what the song is, and it's kind of dumb, but I don't know. My whole thing with Rob Zombie's gotten weird because like I do enjoy his music. I like White Zombie. I like some Rob Zombie stuff, but it just seems like at certain points like he just threw on these random tracks. It was like, oh, we want you to do a song on this movie soundtrack, and he's like, oh yeah, sure, and he's just gonna fucking an audio metal version of the movie, a synopsis. I don't need that.
I respect the game, but there's only one person in music, in my opinion, who can give me a song in recapping a movie. The first one and most important is Will Smith.
Yes.
That's what he did, right? I'm surprised we didn't get Independence Day, Aliens Come Down. And
Wait. Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
The single we're missing.
Wild Wild West. And the second person who can do it, which is honorary, is MC Hammer. Just because of the Addams Family rap. It's a great song. I'm not even making a joke. I really enjoy that song.
No, it's fine. It can work sometimes. I just think it's goofy when he does it with like
No,
metal version of it. That's when you lose.
and the thing,
The difference
those are the
between
only two
them
people who can
and
do it. Rob
and
Zombie's not
true
on that
artists
list.
is, but Vanilla Ice. I was gonna say Vanilla Ice freestyled that Ninja Turtles song.
Ninja Rap?
They broke into his concept.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Ninja Rap was a
He didn't
freestyle
write
done
Go
on the
Ninja,
spot
Go Ninja.
by Vanilla Ice.
He's the real OG of soundtracks.
But out of comic book movie soundtracks, like both Spider-Verse movies have, great soundtracks. The first one better than the second. Black Panther has a ridiculous soundtrack.
Yeah.
I would probably put Daredevil right there in this category. That is, I mean,
if you like this type of music, absolutely.
Yeah, no, for sure. This is definitely very new metal, alternative rock, 2000 stuff. When you're into that,
how's
great.
Limp Bizkit not on this album?
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like it should have been a sure thing, but somehow did not happen.
Linkin Park
had we not
make
get
a song for this album?
I don't know. I mean, it almost seems like they were too big for this at the time, right? Like they may have been just too big for this. Yeah, I would definitely say that. Well, that's one of the stronger points that are in this. So, having said that, let's switch gears because there's also technically a second movie we were discussing, the director's cut of Daredevil, which came out and has built up this cult following. And Jada, I remember, even from early on when we started this show, he would be always an advocate for how much better and superior the director's cut was to the theatrical cut. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. Like, there is a entire storyline involving Coolio
and
that reads throughout this film. Yeah,
I'm going to stop you there. The reason I think this is better than the original, Coolio. You put Coolio in anything. Like, just the fact that Coolio's here doing his Coolio thing makes it better. Didn't mean to interrupt. Wanted to put that out there.
No, that's fine. But I think the main differences overall are the whole Coolio storyline, and we get this. And Rick, we talked about this, the other day. It doesn't. I see what they're trying to do with this. It was trying to show Matt actually do lawyer things, besides tell us that Jose Quesada is guilty and then he gets murdered, and that's pretty much the only lawyering we get really in the theatrical cut.
I hope I win this case.
Every time he loses a case,
he loses the case, and then it leads to Daredevil, and that's basically it.
And again, he literally says, "For your sake, I hope justice is served." In the courtroom, which is to say, for your sake, I hope I win. Because if I don't, I'm coming to throw you in a fucking train.
Exactly. But this has this through line. There's like detective work being done in this. Foggy has some bad lawyering, which Rick referenced earlier. So Rick, imagine none of this is in the theatrical cut whatsoever. Like, this whole thing gets cut out.
Yeah.
All of it. That's a lot. That's a good chunk of the movie.
Embarrassing Foggy moment, but we didn't talk about Foggy. Let's just say this is a shitty Foggy, right? We can all agree on that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like the theatrical cut makes him look somehow worse because there's a scene where Matt Murdock, when Matt Murdock is too busy like having like crouching tiger, hidden dragon sex with in the park with Elektra, he's just not showing up to this court case with Coolio, and Foggy's trying to lawyer, and he's terrible at it to the point where the judge goes, "Well, for your sake, I hope your partner comes back." And it's like, holy shit, Foggy. So you're a racist, a terrible friend, and a terrible lawyer.
Yeah, this director's cut makes Foggy look even worse.
What are you
Yeah.
good at?
Trying to give him, yeah, like what is your purpose, man? But there's a lot of time dedicated. There's like an additional, I want to say 25 minutes of this movie that the director's cut adds in, and most of it revolves around the whole case revolving Coolio's character. And it's just wild that much was chopped out. And there was also details. So, Matt and Foggy have their own, lawyer practice and everything. But there's a secretary there that goes nameless in the theatrical cut.
Yes.
And in the director's cut, Foggy refers to her as Karen, which I remember watching the theatrical cut. I'm like, what if this is supposed to be Karen Page? And then in the director's cut, I pulled the whole DiCaprio thing. Ooh, there it is. There it is. There it is. And I knew I was fucking right. All these years I was right. That is supposed to be Karen Page. Shitty opportunity, man. Like, by the way, just another missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, you just shoehorned her in there.
The
Which, like, I think you
actress
had mentioned.
too.
Yes, it was. Sorry, let me.
No, the actress too. That was Meredith Grey, Dr. Grey. She's a great
Yeah, Ellen
actress. They
Pompeo.
could've used her to do something.
Yeah, Ellen Pompeo was Karen Page, and I still almost feel like she was cast for a reason, besides 2 scenes to talk to them briefly and tell them they got like a call, and that's it. And Grey's Anatomy was on at this point, no? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it was. So
Probably.
what the hell's going on here?
I think, you know what it is? I think they were probably setting up for a sequel, but incompetently.
Yes.
Like, we're going to give you stuff here, but, we'll tease out some shit that only true believer fans will know. I mean, honestly, I didn't know who the fuck Karen Page was till I got to the Daredevil series on Netflix, because I only read a handful of comics and I wasn't that versed in it. Like, so if that's what you're saving for the sequel, which it kind of does feel like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to introduce her and she's someone and she'll come back later, but it's like, okay, but you killed all the villains, you put all the villains away. What are you doing in the sequel? Is he going to date Karen Page?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And I almost didn't know. I didn't know, as you were saying, you didn't know who Karen Page was, and behind Rick's glasses, his eyes were turning red, and he was about to like curse you out or something.
Sorry, Rick. I didn't mean to let you down.
Another thing is the biker bar that is in this is Josie's, which we know from the Netflix series is like a common thing, amongst Foggy and Matt and everything, and Karen. So that they frequent. That's a biker bar in this because Josie gets mentioned briefly in that. And what else? There's also Turk gets mentioned by Coolio, another character from the Daredevil series that just randomly gets mentioned in passing. Oh, Turk was weaved within all the Netflix series.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the go-to guy who everyone had to go to kind of get like information and stuff like that throughout all the Netflix series. I forgot the actor's name, but it's escaped me at the moment. But I'll pull it up in a second. So I just thought that was interesting that they do that. And also another big change is that, so Jason, remember the theatrical cut where we were talking about the rain scene, and there's that whole line exchange where Matt hears something and he's gonna go save somebody. He's like, I have to leave, and Elektra's like, no, stay with me. And it leads to their, as you had mentioned, Crouching Tiger, hidden sex scene or something like that.
Yeah,
that was going on.
Crouching Tiger, hidden getting it on.
There it is. It's back. It's back. I missed that. It's been a while since we got that.
It's been a while. I can't do it all the time.
Nice. I appreciate it. And listen, absence the heart grows fonder, right? That's what they say. So
That's right. Exactly.
So in the director's cut, he leaves the scene to go and do the whole scene with I'm not the bad guy stuff with the kid. Right? Because they also weave in the director's cut, they weave in this this woman that's in trouble in numerous scenes that he feels like he has to go save, and does that. And in that, he leaves. So him and Elektra never get it on in the director's cut, but yet they do in the theatrical cut. Because the sex scene doesn't happen in the director's cut.
Holy shit! I didn't even clock that. That's the issue with me watching them back to back like that. Like
that's why I spread them. That's why I did Friday and Sunday night.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. I got to do that next time. Wow, you're right. So now that's actually pretty big.
Yes,
because
it's a big change.
If they never, I'm not even going to make the joke because I want to make a real point. If they never have sexual intercourse and get intimate and solidify the romance of the movie, the payoff at the end where she takes his mask off and it's like, oh my God, it's you. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, kind of that only pulls the carpet out.
That only makes sense because it's like, no, wait, I know you in a different level. We've had this moment. I've seen you and whatever. I mean, we're idealizing sex, right? I mean, this is a movie for teenagers, but, but they, without that, yeah, oh shit, that doesn't make sense. The lack of sex for story reasons and character reasons takes the director's cut down a bit a notch for me.
Yeah, I think it takes some of the, like you said, the levity of their relationship out of there because it's not like they took that scene and added it in somewhere else. It just doesn't happen.
No, they just don't consummate their relationship, and like that's fine. I'm not saying you have to have sex, but like movie language is you meet the person, the love interest, you have sex, you're in love, this takes you to the end of the movie. Like that's just movie language. It's not how life works. Yes. But if they don't have sex, when did they fall in love? Movie language, not reality.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
Just throwing out for the listeners. Not that I'm saying sex is love. Saying movie language. It is. So when does that happen? It doesn't. And that, wow, that kind of ruined the director's cut for me now that I realize that.
Yeah, the director's cut has its own issues besides the ones that we mentioned, the theatrical one. It doesn't I feel like it's not as, it's disjointed for different reasons. Not all of them. Like it fleshes out certain things that are in it. Sorry, Mando's messing around over here. There's certain things that worked in the theatrical cut just don't seem to play out the same in the director's cut. So it's kind of interesting, which is why I think ultimately there's a good movie that lies somewhere in between the two of these movies.
We need to have a third cut, the Feige cut.
Yes.
Where you kidnap Kevin Feige's children and you say, here's all of the material, make a good movie out of this. We'll give you your children back. And he would.
Oh no, what you do is you tell him like, hey, you got Disney and Marvel Studios, you own this now. Take the footage, take the raw footage, and go do the Richard Donner cut like I did with Superman 2 and go re-edit a movie that is actually significantly better. Tell Mark Steven Johnson you're not allowed to go anywhere near this fucking thing.
He wasn't ready yet.
No, he wasn't.
Tell him those things.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, or what you do is this. How about this twist? You tell Ben Affleck you're the director now. Right? 2024 Ben Affleck. And you tell him, you're the director. You can re-edit this movie and make it good. And I bet you he would.
I'm not going to argue with this. I'm not going to. And your buddy Matt can come and help.
I'm in for that.
He's Foggy Nelson, by the way. Matt Damon is Foggy Nelson in the review.
Yeah, you get Jon Favreau and Ben Affleck together, and they decide, hey, let's recut Daredevil and make it a Disney Plus project, and we're going to make it better. So we get the third cut, the competent cut of Daredevil.
Jon Favreau, do what you do best. Be behind the scenes. Can you cut Foggy Nelson out of this movie?
Yes. Or we're gonna CGI de-age you and have you go back and redo this.
Yeah. Can we CGI de-age you and make you a good Foggy? Because you have it in you. Like, that's the thing. I like Favreau.
Yes,
Like,
love Jon
he's-
Favreau.
At this point, he's grating on me as Happy. I think Happy needs to be put to rest, but that's not his fault. I
Yeah.
thought he was a great Happy at first. I love Swingers. I love stuff. But man, is he offensively bad in this movie.
No, he's brutal. He's brutal in this.
Yeah.
This was like he's
Can
also in
I-
a football movie called The Replacements with Keanu Reeves, where John
he's in
Favreau's.
that?
Oh yeah, no, he plays this like crazy linebacker who's awesome. That movie is so underrated by a lot. It's a pretty fucking solid football comedy, and that. But
Okay.
the cast is crazy. But yeah, Keanu Reeves and John Favreau are both in that movie. Both beloved, now. Sorry, Rick. Go
Can
ahead.
I tell you, guys, the problem with what we're fucking brainstorming is this is why Doctor Strange didn't tell Iron Man how you win immediately. like how they had to go through it and then they could win is because if what we're saying would have happened, right? And they fucking nailed this Daredevil movie. All of a sudden, they're like, you know what? That Ghost Rider and that Punisher movie are not that bad. And then what we end up having is a Sony-run Marvel Knights franchise that leads to the MCU never fucking being created because Sony will run it into the ground. And that's why
hold on.
Doctor Strange didn't
What
tell
a
Iron
what
Man
if?
how to beat Thanos.
What
Well, no, the what
if
if- the
Daredevil was a competent movie?
No, but I think
All of a sudden, the Marvel Knights is a thing. You got Blade, you got Ghost Rider, Daredevil, and Punisher, and no Spider-Man.
Well, no, Spider-Man would have existed at Sony. This
It
is the
would be
problem.
bad.
This is the only thing I'm going to poke through.
He would have existed.
Sony would have successfully already had had a Spider-Man movie. They would have had the second one still, and they would have had Ghost Rider.
They would have,
Yeah, so they would have had Ghost Rider. They would have succeeded with that. Let's just say again, the MCU, I agree, ceases to exist because I don't know if they would have had the nerve to try to launch an Avengers interconnected universe with the success these movies would have had. But Lionsgate, different studio, had the Punisher as well. So you would have had Marvel Knights, but they were all over the place. Yes, they couldn't have crossed over unless somebody would have somehow came away with some sort of agreement. But
if they would have Kevin Feige'd it, but no one could Kevin Feige it until Kevin Feige does it with Spider-Man.
Yes, and he also has to. But that's a funny thing. So Kevin Feige in that situation, I guess, is Tony Stark, and can't know what he has to kind of go through it. He has to go through the blip and everything to learn in the end. Interesting.
Yep.
But now
we're Doctor Strange.
Kevin Feige.
We're
is
collectively
the
Doctor
Beyonder.
Strange.
We're Doctor Strange.
Wow.
I love that.
Kevin Feige wears the leisure suit into meetings. That would be great. That would be phenomenal.
I now want to see Kevin Feige in a leisure suit buying heroin with Cloak and Dagger. Because the Beyonder does that in a Cloak and Dagger comic book.
Yes. Oh man.
So if you go back and read those Secret Wars crossovers, there's like 56 issues. The Beyonder shows up in like everybody's random ass issue and it's kind of like, Beyonder. And then he leaves.
Oh my god, that's what I
So
need.
weird.
In a couple of years in Avengers Secret Wars, that's what we need. Hey, Christopher Walken should be the Beyonder. Hey, I'm the Beyonder.
I'm the Beyonder. I come here to dance in my leisure suit. Cloak, Dagger, you want a piece of this heroin.
He should just be constantly the post-credit scene in every Marvel movie leading up to that. And that's it. And just do that. Hey, I'm the Beyonder, yeah.
Actually, that would be fantastic. Like, just the Beyonder in the movie we just saw, like, you know, so we see like, you know, I don't know, fucking Marvel's 3, and the Beyonder just shows up and he's like, "Hey, Cass, what do you think of my leisure suit?" And Goose is like,
oh, that's great. Oh boy. All right, so I guess let's wrap up the movie part of this then. So if you had to pick one though, theatrical or director's cut? Because I think we're both. I think we're kind of all agreeing that there's issues with both of them.
yeah. Should I start?
Same issue.
Yes, go ahead. Start.
All right. I think outside of the lack of sex, not for the sex, but for the character stuff that I said, I think the director's cut is a better version of this movie. But I think I like the Coolio stuff. I actually do like, again, concept, right? I like the idea of showing Matt Murdock as not just a superhero, but an actual lawyer. Neither of these do that, but the director's cut tries, and it has Coolio. So I'm going to go director's cut. Although I'm going to say the lack of the consummation of the sex and the relation and the love and all that makes the emotional impact is taken away when Elektra realizes it's Matt Murdock. Because, well, what have they shared? They've shared a weird Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon fight after meeting by chance, and then a moment at, like, you know, at the ball, the party, like, that's it. So, like, you know, I think the director's cut is better, but only for specific reasons and by like a hair.
Okay. Rick, I know this is going to be a tough one for you to answer because you do you remember enough? Like, which way would you go then? No,
Yeah.
This might be a little tougher.
It's not a tough one at all.
Okay, okay, good.
So when I first watched the film, I couldn't stand it. You know, and a lot of my anger is I think I was too busy comparing it to Spider-Man instead of just enjoying the movie that they made. But then I want to say it's like 10 years ago or 8 years ago, I worked with a buddy of mine who was a huge comic book fan. DD is also his #1 superhero. And he was like, dude, you got to watch the director's cut. Like, it's way better. Like, it actually will change your opinion of the film. And he was right. It did. I've only seen this movie 3 times now, in the theater, when I watched the director's cut 8 or 10 years ago, and then yesterday. And the director's cut is kind of my definitive copy of it. And what it is it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't fix anything. Both films have the same issues. But what it does is it fleshes out the film more. You know, while fleshing out characters a little more, it fleshes out the film a little more. And the plus 35 or 40 minutes, like, I'm all about it. I wish that they would do what was it? Suicide Squad. I wish they would add all the Joker scenes back in and then release a copy plus 30 minutes of Jared Leto Joker scenes. It added to the film, it fleshed it out more.
Oh, here we go. It's hashtag release the
air cut. Are you saying release the air cut?
That's what he's saying.
Yes.
Because as we know, director's cuts became a huge thing in the last couple of years.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
interrupt. Go ahead.
No, for a reason, dude. I feel like between the two versions, it doesn't fix anything, but it fleshes it out. I really enjoyed this movie. I can't imagine someone watching this and not enjoying certain parts of it.
Agreed.
All right.
I think that's my big break on it.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on the director's cut. Definitely fleshes things out. There's definitely more Matt Murdock lawyering, like more than one scene. So that's important. We also, by the way, I did fail to mention, we also get way more of Matt Murdock and the priest. There's a lot more leaning on his Catholicism. which is a huge part to Matt Murdock as well. So Matt Murdock's character gets way more fleshed out in this. Elektra, everyone else is fairly the same that's in there. And we get an entirely new storyline with Coolio's character, which doesn't even exist in the theatrical cut. So there's a lot that's added in. We also get a little thing with Kingpin that gets added in where he ends up like killing his guards.
Yes.
Earlier in the movie, which we don't get in that's cut from the theatrical cut as well.
And that was what I was referencing before.
Yeah, no, I recall. So there's definitely a lot of fleshing out things. But I also kind of understand why they cut some of these things. Because I think the pacing of the movie still isn't great. Like I think there's some of you could have still gotten a Coolio storyline in there without having as much of it as we did. And I do like the Easter eggs, like the Karen Page acknowledgement should have been left in. The Turk thing would have been cool, things like that. But then the theatrical cut is super rushed. Like everything just happens at light speed, essentially, and that's it. So that's why I stand by that there's a good movie in here somewhere in the middle. That's where it is. But I don't know. I guess maybe it's because I've seen the theatrical cut so many times is where I'm just kind of used to it. But I do like the fleshing out more. But I also think the pacing is really erratic in the director's cut. Like it just kind of takes a lot of time to get to things.
I actually have.
Not copping out on this, but
no. I have a real wonder here. Like because we all saw the theatrical cut first. Clearly, I wonder what someone's take for years. I wonder what someone's take would be if they just saw the director's cut for the first time. Because the thing is, like, I can't even talk about the clunkiness of the pacing or whatever because I watched them both and they're both so similar that clearly I couldn't remember which was in which. And in my head, I'm always going to think theatrical, right? That's because I've seen that. But I wonder if the director's cut plays different if it's the first time you've seen this movie and how that plays, if it's better or worse. Because there's issues, like it's better in certain places, it's worse in others. We're all coming from the place of we saw the original first. I don't know. Has anyone listening? If you have seen the director's cut first, please get in contact with us on whatever medium that we're on because I want to know your thoughts.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing to look at. I just think that the takeaway would be that the pacing is slow. I think they would say that it slows down. The whole Coolio thing does slow the movie down. Like
it does, but I'm curious if the slowing down is worthwhile for someone watching it. Like if they'd even notice, because it does slow it down, but it does add stuff. So I'm curious if that's the first time you saw it, if you would even clock it as slowing down, or maybe you might watch this and go back and watch the theatrical and go, wow, they kind of gutted this. Like it needed this. Like
right.
That's my that's what I'm thought my question.
Yeah, I would compare this more to the Batman, ironically, Batman for BVS, regular theatrical and that, because there's some stuff added in that fleshes things out more, but essentially the movie is still what the movie is. Now, like Zack Snyder's Justice League is basically not even the same movie as Justice League. Like it's drastically different, right? Like it's night and day. We covered Superman 2. And the Donner cut.
Oh, Donner cut, so different,
so much better. Also, but they're drastically different movies. Not every director's cut adds to it. These movies are kind of different. I will agree on that. But it's just hard for me to pick which one I would prefer because you're right. I'm way more familiar with the theatrical cut because I did watch it plenty of times over the years, like randomly.
Yeah.
I even think on Double Deep Dive one episode I mentioned that I happened to be watching Daredevil one day, and I was like, "Ooh, I can't." And Granny's PC, we're gonna get to that one day.
And here we are.
So it's tough. It's a tough selection. I think they both have their plus and minuses to it. So tough on there. All All right, I guess one more quick comment by Jader to get to, and then we'll wrap this show up. Off topic, the rumor has it that Deadpool 3 is going to be called, we wrote Daredevil and Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, that's been the word out there. It's going to be called Deadpool and Wolverine or Deadpool versus Wolverine. I mean, I don't think we're going to get the Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe that I thought we were going to get. That still could be the story. Because,
I wish we do, though. I really want us to have that.
Well, Jennifer Gardner is essentially confirmed to be returning as Elektra. There's got to be a reason.
I've heard that, yeah.
And Ben Affleck supposedly is back as Daredevil. Like, I'm assuming they're cameos, though. I can't imagine it going on for more than one scene.
No, and I just need it to be a cameo, but I need Deadpool to kill them. Like, I need this. Not that I need this. I want this to be Deadpool kills the Sony universe.
Well, Fox.
I'm sorry, Fox universe. My bad. Deadpool kills the Fox universe. That's kind of what I think, because it is a take on Deadpool kills the Marvel universe, or Marvel universe, but it's applying it to the movies. Like, I think that would be perfect, and I really hope that's what it is. And I hope we get cameos from all of these people, and Deadpool kills them all, and then we can say goodbye forever.
I agree with you. I don't disagree with that. It would be a fun way for them to kind of have some fun with it and end it for good and like truly have a funeral on screen for it. But I also question, though, where does this Wolverine come into play with this? I don't see them both going around slaughtering the Fox Marvel universe. Maybe it's a portion of the movie. Maybe like in the first 20 minutes, it's him randomly wiping out the Fox universe, and then the story with Wolverine kind of picks up, the buddy cop movie.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. Or maybe him and Wolverine are fighting each other. Maybe they're at odds. Like, we don't, like, there's no confirmed villain, right?
No, not that I'm aware of off the top of my head.
Maybe it's Deadpool hunting down the Fox, the Fox characters, and Wolverine's trying to stop him.
That would be fun. Or would be fun is if they went crazy with this and they were like, Kevin Feige sends Deadpool to go kill the Fox Marvel universe. Huh? They meet in like a Disney office, and that's how it starts.
That would be awesome. And it mirrors kind of how, if you've read Deadpool kills Deadpool kills the Marvel universe, that's kind of how it ends, where he's in real life. Like, so that would be a kind of fun way to start it, like inverting it like that.
Yeah, that would be. All right, so let's go ahead and throw this up there. All right, so that does it for us this week. Man, big show for us. This is the biggest show we've done in a long time now.
Well,
so
we did cover 2 movies, in all fairness.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks for joining us. As always, if you check this out on Facebook, be sure to check out Granny's PhD's Facebook group, because we got a lot of cool, fun stories and trailers and whatnot. I'm sure the Deadpool trailer will drop on there on Sunday night during the Super Bowl, so check that out. Check us out on YouTube, Pop Culture Pros. That's what we are presented by, popculturepros.com. If you're following us on X, you can go ahead and check out at Pop Culture Pros. Give us a follow there. And wherever you found your audio-only podcasts, check out Pop Culture Pros. A lot of cool stuff on the network, wrestling, sports, you name it, we got it. So go ahead and check it out there. The 3 of us will be back. Yes, Rick, I'm penciling you in here already for next week, because we're going to continue this little run here we got, and we're going to be talking about Elektra, because that's naturally where this goes. We'll do a nice little Elektra versus the director's cut of Elektra, which I just found out existed a few weeks ago.
Yeah, there's a director's cut of this?
Of Elektra, apparently. I've never seen it. I've seen Elektra once.
They show nipple in it.
I've never seen... Oh, wait, whose nipple? Whose nipple, Rick?
Terrence Stamp's nipple. That's who it is.
Oh, yes. All right. Now I'm excited.
Because you do know Terrence Stamp is Stick in Elektra.
Is he really?
Yes,
Wait,
he is.
Stick isn't... Look, guys.
I just pissed you off even more.
I know nothing about this movie except that Jennifer Garner's in it, and I vowed never to see it.
Elektra is in this, surviving.
You might not hate it, dude. I'm going to warn you now. You might
I
not
might
hate
not.
it.
I hope
Jason-
I don't.
Stick is in it, and so is the hand.
I mean, and that's all good. That actually makes me dislike Daredevil more. The fact that
Exactly.
Stick is in it.
And I purposely saved this for that. So you might be
Thank
talking
you.
more Daredevil after this.
Yeah, no, I'm actually kind of excited to see this now.
But
I'm
I think in
excited
the
to see-
director's cut, there is a Ben Affleck, Matt Murdock cameo, supposedly.
Oh. All right. I'm interested to see this. All right. I'm interested to order some Mexican food next week.
Oh boy. All right, so
Just
check
so
us out next
faithful
week.
for
Yeah,
them
we'll be
fish.
back. And we got a packed show next week, so see you then. And then Madam Web. Peace.
Oh, God. Later. I'm deflated.